Hey guys, welcome back. So guys seem to have really liked the sugarcane farm here, and a lot of you also asked me if we could make something similar for bamboo as well. So there will definitely be some issues with it, but in this video we're gonna try to do exactly that. Try to make a bamboo farm with this type of concept. So the biggest issue that I see is just the fact that bamboo can grow a lot taller and also grows a lot faster. So what works out pretty nicely with the sugarcane farm, where the minecarts are directly on the flying machine, is the item collection. Sugarcane can only grow 3 high, so all the items would be directly inside of the minecart's hitbox. They would generate if you break the blocks, or 1 block higher and get picked up in the next tick. But bamboo, of course, can grow higher than 3 blocks. They're significantly higher, and of course all the items coming from blocks that are 4 blocks or taller would either maybe land on the hoppers if you're super lucky, but most of them would just land on the ground and couldn't be picked up anymore. So we would need to directly compete with a farm like this one here. We just have a flying machine breaking all the blocks, and then we have a separate minecart line below hopper minecarts that would pick up all the items. There's just one minor downside of this concept. Some of the items would land on top of the existing bamboo plants, but this is actually also kind of taken care of. If the bamboo grows again, then the items will just glitch to the side and fall down as well. So this way, pretty much all the items will be collected. One downside of this design is that if you let the bamboo grow really tall and then start the flying machine, you will have a lot of lag, which we kind of don't want anyway. So what we could maybe do for the hopper minecart on the flying machine design is limit the height of the bamboo. So if you maybe just limit it to 3 high, but harvest more frequently, then we could maybe also make this work. So speed will definitely be very important. Also, we need to actually consider another fact. On the way, the flying machine would also break some bamboo. So if you would have just a one-sided design, then a lot of bamboo on the way back will be broken and not collected. So it's probably a good idea. It's not that relevant really for the sugarcane farm, because it just takes a very long time for sugarcane to grow, to actually have another blade trapdoors on the other side of the flying machine. So we could just add extensions on this side as well, and also add the trapdoors. So we just need to get the minecarts off one side and put it on top of the other side at the end of each side. Also, I was thinking, so the concept we have here to distribute the minecarts over the flying machine, also store them centrally, it takes a little bit of time and it's also a bit complicated. We might just make a tileable design. So all the minecarts would, at the end of the station, drop down, maybe get unloaded, and then immediately go back on top of the rails. So have basically a tileable system. We do it for each single minecart instead of having a centralized storage. Just because the bamboo grows still fast, and it's probably not a good idea to have a lot of downtimes for the flying machines. The flying machine I want to use will look like this. Still quite compact. It's a bit inconvenient if you actually stop it on one side of the non-movable blocks, that you have to split it up again. So you couldn't just launch it by activating this observer, because obviously the sticky piston here can't push out the blocks. So we need to trigger it like this side first, and then this observer. And this way you can fly to the other side. Just stop it with the obsidian blocks here again. And we can even use a single redstone dust line to launch it again. So basically we just trigger the trapdoor here first, and here we use a redstone lamp, which in case you depower it will stay on for 4 ticks longer, so we get the second pulse a little bit later. Okay, so nice trick. This way we can launch the whole flying machine again. Right, so at one end we will have the hopper minecarts here on top of the trapdoors. Now we need to get it over here. So we're thinking, what's the best way to do it? Probably, well, we just use this trick that we could also use with the mud, where the minecarts would just fall through. It's less than 2 blocks high, and then the minecart just snap to the rail below. And then of course we need to bring it up here. Yeah, we can't just go up here because it's in the way of the flying machine. We'll probably have to go this way first. Maybe like this. And then just go up and over. And here you could drop down to the other side. So we need a couple rails. It's probably still better than having all the rails below the farm to collect. It looks like we're using like 12 rails or so. It's not too bad. We also have to do it on both sides. So if you make the farm like 100 blocks long, you need like 12 rails on each side and 24 in total. The other alternative is like having 100 rails below the farm. It might also be worth it to look into possible alternatives. So instead of going above the whole flying machine with rails, you could maybe just do it from below as well. So one idea would be something like this here. Just have the machine on some slime blocks, then shoot the minecart up. The right moment, so we would push this in when the minecart is on the way back down. Maybe we can also do that with some soul sand and bubble columns. Then we could get rid of the need to use sticky pistons and slime blocks. But it's definitely another case where it's very convenient that the rails are no longer flushed. And this is also looking very promising. Look at this. Yeah, definitely would make it easier. Okay, so at least on one side we still need to squeeze in a minecart unloading system. So of course we're gonna just break the minecart and dispense it again. We have a little bit of space in between. Let's see if we can do it. Okay, so I made this here, which should do the job. Okay, let's try it out. Let's put a couple items in there. Yep, so it should work quite well. You can still put something like a slab here. Then items will be flushed towards this side. And the minecart is redispensed. Just the take the rail here is triggered for a short moment, and then the dispense is activated. As a next step, I combined everything, and now I'm wondering, it's probably not the greatest idea to actually trigger the dispenser depending on the incoming minecart. Might be even better just to have a redstone line triggering all of the dispensers. Because technically we also need an on-off switch, so in case we don't want to use the flying machine or the bamboo farm anymore, we want all the minecarts staying in those dispensers. Would be quite convenient. And instead of just trying to somehow prevent the dispenser from being triggered by powering those note blocks, we could also just not trigger the line here that would dispense the minecarts again. So I was thinking about just using some downwards facing observers with some either rails or redstone dust above that triggers the whole line. Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna get rid of that bottom part, just gonna replace it with some normal blocks instead. To launch the flying machine, I would just trigger it here. So first minecarts will be dispensed, and then at the right moment, just push the flying machine forward. Time for a test. Definitely want to see how well the machine can handle 4 high bamboo. So currently the flying machine would be 4 high, but I could rebuild it to make it 3 high as well. But let's just see what actually happens. Alright. Okay, that looks quite well. What happens to the bamboo? That's 4 high. Yeah, mostly lands actually in the back of the machine. Yeah. It's not ideal, because a lot of item entities would also cause a lot of lag. So I'm actually thinking about rebuilding the flying machine to only make it 3 high to prevent that entirely. Just not nice. Because that wouldn't happen too often if we immediately launch the flying machine again. Actually get 4 high bamboo because it has to like grow twice. But it's definitely gonna happen and the items will just not be collected. So it's definitely not ideal. We should definitely reconsider this. Okay. It's a bit annoying now I have to rebuild the flying machine. Probably just make it wider instead of having the slime blocks here above the sticky pistons. Yeah, have them here in the back. And then, of course, kind of convenient that we can use a single observer to power 3 pistons at once. That won't be possible anymore. Definitely need at least 2. But a little bit of rebuilding and this will be fine. Okay, let's try it out once again. I already added a station at the other end as well to return the flying machine. Okay, so let's take up a little bit. See the return. Oh, flying machine comes in and we just send the minecarts back to the other side and launch it again. Okay, as we can see, yeah, there's also plenty of space for more items in there. But there is one downside to the whole thing. The second blade also cuts down some bamboo that grows in between. And then we have the item entities laying on the ground. So this is not really ideal. But I don't see a very simple way to get around this issue. I guess one way would be rebuild the flying machine entirely. So you don't have the back part. We could maybe move the trapdoors from one end to the other. just rearrange basically everything. There would be a way to deal with this, but yes, I guess it's a bit too much effort now to get it super complicated. So not too bad. Let's maybe actually check. The flying machine is coming back in. Okay, so the unloading works fine. And now we got those item entities. We can maybe use a TP command real quick. 73 item entities, so this is not that great. I guess if you would send the flying machine every 3 minutes or so, then you would have 70 entities each time with this 12 wide one. If you go for like 100 wide, or 500 entities maybe, it could get pretty bad. It's probably best if you just try it out. So I'm just gonna clone this, add 7 more modules to it, so that's roughly 100 by 100, and we'll see how bad the lag is. I guess this works pretty well, just with this disadvantage of the item lag. But it's undeniably cheaper than the version that would require a lot more rails below the whole farm, right? I mean, just this part at the end, which is not too much effort compared to building a lot of rails in between. Also, we already have the unloading system and all of that. The other side is also not too much effort. I mean, a couple of rails is what we need, but yeah, look at it. It's not too bad. Alright, so there we go. 100 by 96 bamboo farm. Okay, so let's take a look at the lag, especially the item entity lag. We can run the tick entities command using carpet mod, and there we can see item in overworld is 8.09 ms. So by far the biggest lag causer in the game right now. Hopper Michael comes next with 2.31. Then we have piston, a bit of hopper, etc. But yeah, it's almost negligible compared to so many items. But we're actually getting a decent amount of items, so it looks like it's roughly around 160,000 items per hour with this type of farm. It's actually quite a lot. So I'm curious, currently I'm actually launching those flying machines every 2 minutes. How it would compare if you would launch the flying machine every 4 minutes instead. So how much less would we get in terms of items, and how would the item lag look like? So the fewer launches we have of the flying machines, the less item entities we also have. So if you would only launch every 4 minutes, we are slightly lag friendlier. So the item entry lag is now at around 4 to 5 milliseconds per tick. And in terms of items per hour, we're still at around 150,000, so that's pretty good. Then we would need to compare this to the other farm as well, so the one where we have the minecarts below picking up the items. There you also have item entry lag. So of course those items are not picked up immediately. You got the minecart going back and forth below, which is not synchronized with the flying machine, because the minecart is just way slower, even if you would use something like waterlogged rails. So you couldn't really synchronize that. Yeah. Probably best if you also just make a farm of that size and directly compare it. Okay, here we go. Farm is fully built up, so we have a fair comparison. Here we can also see the initial problem with this type of farm. So if you send all the flying machines to harvest, you get quite a lag spike in the beginning. So the MSBT spike up to 30, so that's pretty bad in regards to that. Probably better if you would maybe space out the flying machines a little bit. Don't set them off all at the same time. Yeah, so it takes a while until all the item entities are collected. If you do the F3 menu, you also have 600-700 item entities in this type of farm. So in terms of lag, it's actually not that much better. So here at the bottom, we got all the minecarts collecting, being dispensed again. Of course, we used the new 1.19 system. That is already a huge improvement for this type of farm compared to the old unloaders. But yeah, also in terms of items per hour, it's not necessarily that much faster. So you probably have to wait a little bit longer, but we're also around 150, 160k, the same size of the farm. I also limited the height here, by the way, to 6 for the bamboo, because you definitely don't want to have this grow up to 15 high. If you do the initial harvest, the game would completely lag. You could maybe even crash a server if you play on one, so it's probably a good idea to limit the height anyway. As you can see, 30 MSBT of this setup right now. And probably have to do a longer test and maybe just do a 1 hour tick warp and see how quick the game ran. This type of farm and with the other one in comparison. Then we can probably also see how many items we got. Yeah, let's quickly do a proper test. And here are the results. So 1 full hour and we're running at 12 MSBT and got around 170,000 items per hour. And now let's check out the first one again. So here we also tested for 1 hour, got about 150,000 items per hour compared to 170,000 of the other design. And in terms of lag, we were actually better, not just a little bit, actually a lot. So here we were at around 12, and here we are a bit under 9. So even the item per lag number would be a little bit better with this one here. And I have to say, I'm actually really surprised it would, yeah, fare that well compared to the other design. So definitely this would be my choice. It's actually fun to watch here with the bubble columns. It's probably less effort because we have to place way fewer rails. Of course, a little bit more complicated if you look at that here, but I mean, you've seen it. So we got the unloading system, a couple rails, and then we just got the launching system, which is just slightly more complicated. And on the other side, yeah, also not too much effort. It's basically just a line here and rails. So it's not too bad. And the good thing is there's also still room for improvement. So I'm probably gonna come back to this design and try to get rid of the last little flaws. But for today, I don't have any time left. I think we're good for now. So it's definitely the proof of concept that, yeah, such a farm is viable. If you want, you can also check out the world download. That's it for today. Thanks guys for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.